Everyone, in this video I'm going to present you with a challenge called Turtle Maze. In this challenge, a maze is drawn on the screen and you must use Turtle to create a path through the maze. The tools you have are Turtle, which is a way to draw lines and shapes on the screen using Python, the coding language or programming language we'll be using in Trinket.io, along with what I'm going to explain next. So in order to understand what's going on and how you're going to solve this challenge, drawing a path through the maze using Turtle, which is just drawn here, and you gotta draw some lines through it, you must first understand the coding concept behind the challenge. So, if you haven't figured out the coding concept, here's a hint. The concept lets you do the same thing multiple times. So, if your answer is a for loop, you are correct. In Python, a for loop is the same thing as a for loop in any other programming language like Visual Basic, JavaScript, or something else that we've done in ComSci Kids. The only way that a for loop is different is that you type it out differently in Python. If you need a quick refresher on what a for loop is, here it is. A for loop is a way to run the same line of code a specified number of times. For example, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times. You can usually create, or in fancy words, instantiate, a variable, normally called I, and then you set it equal to 0, or some other starting number like 1, 2, and so on. Then you add 1 to it every loop, or you can add 2, 3, 4, but normally use 1. Or in fancy words, you increment it by some number like 1 until it reaches a certain number like 10. And so you start at 0, you can add 1, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then once you hit 10, you're all done. And so here what it looks like in Python. And so over here, you have a for loop created. You have I, the variable you're starting out with. It's set equal to 1 first, according to this, because it's the lower bound. And then the upper bound is 3. And so you start off with 1, I being equal to 1, and then you go 1, add 1 to it, 2, and then add 1 to it, you get 3. Once it's 3, you're all done, you stop, you break. And so this line over here, the code inside the for loop, only runs 2 times, when I is equal to 1 and when I is equal to 2. 3 is not included because 3 is technically, in fancy we do say, it's excluded, it's not included within the bounds that I is going to be equal to. And so at the end, in order to make sure that the for loop works, 3 should be printed because inside the for loop what you're doing is you're setting total, which is initially equal to 0, equal to whatever it is prior, plus the value of I. And so for the first time, it would be 0 plus 1, which is 1. For the second time, it would be 1 plus 2, which is 3. 3. And so 3 should be printed at the end. And then this is the same thing as above. This, in fancy terms, is the same thing as this. You just set I equal to 1, and then you set I equal to 2. And then you can also do this, 3, and then this should print out 6, but it won't because you're just going to be doing 1 plus 0, which is 1, and then 1 plus 2, which is 3. And so once I run it, 3 and 3 should be printed out. Now, you might be wondering, how are you going to use this to solve the maze? So you're going to have to use for loops with Turtle in order to draw a path through the maze. You could write out different Turtle commands for drawing out a path, like moving forward, turning right, moving backward, turning left. Or if you're typing out the same line multiple times, the same functions or commands multiple times, you could use a for loop. And so down here, I have some code for drawing a square. And so a square is being drawn here with the same 2 lines typed out 4 times. And so you've forward, right, forward, right, forward, right, forward, right, and so on 4 times. Now, you could do the same thing with the for loop, where you don't have to type out the forward, right multiple times. All you have to do is just create a for loop that says do the line underneath the for loop 4 times. So you start off with I equal to 0, and you go 0, 1, 2, 3. You don't go to 4 because 4 is not included. It's excluded. And then that's it. And so right here, you have the red square, which is with a lot of lines, and then the blue square with the for loop. And at the end, they have the same result, and that's really what matters. But the second solution with the for loop had less lines, and that's why it's better. So let's go back to the challenge. So for this challenge, what you'll have to do is combine for loops and moving forward, turning functions. If you don't remember, it would be ted.right, ted.left to move right and move left. Make sure you have 90 inside as the parameter, because that would turn it 90 degrees one way or the other way. And then this new function that I created for you guys called move forward block. What this does is it moves Ted. I'm just going to be referencing Ted as the turtle. It moves Ted one block in front of it. And so if it's right here, it'd move one block in front, which would be right here, and then 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and so on. And so instead of having to do Ted.forward and specify a certain unit, certain distance inside that, I'm just going to make your life easier, and you just have to call move forward block. So now, if you need a hint, I'm going to say this. Try typing out the commands without a for loop and see where you are repeating the same line multiple times, and then remove all the additional code and then add in the for loop there. So I'm going to give you a few seconds right now, pause the video, and just give it a shot, and then I'll explain the solution in a bit. So I hope you gave it a good shot, and you might even have a solution. You might already be at the bottom. Now I'm going to walk through what my thinking is when I'm going to be trying to solve this problem. So down here, I just have the lines without any for loops. And so if I was to run it, it solves the maze. It's all good. But the thing is, I have to type out so many lines, and I don't want to type out all these lines. I want to make my life easier with a for loop. And so I'm going to look through my code and see where I type the same line multiple times. Not here, it's just once. Oh, I typed this line 5 times. Now I don't need to do this. All I can do is just get the first line, delete the rest, and add in a for loop for I in range 5. So I do this 5 times, and the same thing should happen. So, and I also solved it, and so we know that worked. Now let's move on. Nope, this doesn't work. Oh, look, this works. I move forward 4 times. So I can just take the first line, delete the rest, and then add in the for loop. Now let's move on. Oh, look, it's the same thing as above. Just copy and paste this back in here, because I was moving forward 4 times, just like above, just to make sure this works. There we go. And now let's go to the end, and look, we ended it with moving forward 5 times. And so just like above, because it's multiple times, for I in range 5, move forward block. And this should solve the maze. And you can see I've typed out so many less lines of code in this example with for loops, versus me having to type out a lot more commands. And so hopefully from this you saw that with for loops you achieve the same purpose as without a for loop, but you have to type less lines of code, which is really nice. Now here's a little bit extra learning for you guys. If this is too easy for you guys, you want a little bit more of a challenge, you could make this code even better. You can make it even more efficient. If you notice down here, I've typed out the same for loop and the same command after ted.write 2 times. Now what you can do is, you can take these for loop and put it inside another for loop, essentially. And what this would be is it's something called nested for loop, similar to a nested if statement where you have an if statement within an if statement. And so in order to do this, you just type out for, and then I don't want to use I because I is already being used. I don't want the computer to think, oh look, I is here, what's I equal to? So I'm just going to use a different variable name. Let's call it J. In range, I'm doing this 2 times, so I just type out 2, and then I take the first part, delete the rest, and then add it back in. And just make sure that the spacing is right. Just a little heads up, if you get some red lines, something like that, you might get an error or something like that because your spacing is off. And so if you have code underneath the for loop, it must be indented once. And then if it's outside, on the same indent, you can say. Python's really picky about this, so make sure you have the correct indents. And so if I was to run this, the same thing happens, and I have even less lines of code because I have a nested for loop. But don't worry, you don't have to have this. Just make sure that you have somewhere in your solution using for loop and you're not typing out the same line multiple times. Well, I hope you had fun with Turtle Maze and you're able to solve it, and I recommend that you watch the next few videos for some more fun with trinkets. Bye.